Season 1, Episode 10, The Mechanic. The mechanic who found his pit crew. In this story, we meet Frank, a master mechanic who spent his life fixing engines and solving complex problems, only to find himself faced with a breakdown he couldn't repair with a wrench. The call came not with the roar of a perfectly tuned engine, but a quiet, unsettling hum. For 40 years, Frank's hands were his livelihood. They had been covered in oil and grease, meticulously working on everything from classic muscle cars to family sedans. His world was a garage filled with the scent of gasoline and the clanker of tools. He spoke a language of pistons and carburetors, a problem solver who believed that every machine, no matter how complex, had a fix. His identity was wrapped in his ability to get a stalled engine running again, to make a broken machine whole. He knew how to find the faulty part of any system. The diagnosis, prostate cancer, was a breakdown he could not fix. The doctor's office was a sterile, impersonal room with no familiar smells of a workshop. The news was like a catastrophic engine failure, a problem he couldn't diagnose with his years of experience. He felt his carefully constructed identity as an invincible fixer to begin to dissolve. He could fix the cars of his community, but he couldn't fix himself. He came home that day, and he felt like a rusted-out shell. He watched his wife, Carol, hum to herself as she tended to her garden with an unfamiliar rhythm that just felt like a cruel joke. She'd asked him, "What can I do for you, honey?" And he just shook his head. He was a broken machine. He didn't know how to get the gears to turn. He'd always known how to lead his team of mechanics, but now he just felt completely lost. One day, Carol came into his garage where he was just staring at a blank wall. She didn't push him to talk, but instead she quietly put a photo of the team on his desk, a collection of his mechanics from over the years. And she sat down beside him, her hand on his, and she asked him, she said, "Frank, you always told them that a great mechanic is nothing without his pit crew. You need to let your pit crew help you." And her words were a mirror, just showing him a reflection of the man that he used to be. That night, Carol helped him find a support group, a circle of men who met not in a sterile clinic, but in a small community center. He was skeptical, thinking it would be a place of defeat and despair. But instead, he found a different kind of workshop, one that was filled with a different kind of strength. There were men that he had heard the same jarring news that he had. They spoke not of their illnesses, but of lives, their kids, their passions, their fears. They shared their campfire cancer survivor stories. There was a retired firefighter there, a simple man of beauty, and he spoke of how he learned to appreciate the unquantifiable things of life and love and friendship and laughter. He said ProState Attitude wasn't about being a lone wolf mechanic, but it was about having courage to show up for the most important race of his life. And as Frank listened to these men, a profound truth began to emerge. His life wasn't just a machine that needed to be fixed. It was a journey. And a journey he realized is best taken with others. He understood that vulnerability wasn't a sign of weakness, but it was the first step in a new repair. He went home that night, and he finally talked to his wife. And he spoke of the fear of losing his identity, of not being able to find joy in his work anymore. And as he spoke, he felt a profound sense of relief, of a long-shuttered garage that had finally found its focus. He was still a mechanic, but he was no longer a mechanic that was alone. He still had a long road ahead of him, but as he stood there in the living room with Carol, he knew his passion hadn't gone anywhere. He had found a new kind of community, and he was ready to get back to work. He was ready to fix his own history.